when you talk, just like with any repeater, put one of the combinations of frequency, offset, color, talk group, and time slot, key in and say your call sign and then listening, and someone will come back to you, with that. Now, this so far is, you would say, why go through all the complication to listen to frequency when I can just, uh, use a regular repeater? Well, the fact that these are digital means that there's some things that we can do that we cannot readily do with regular repeaters. So one thing, for example, is that we can network repeaters together. Now, here's one thing. If the owner of this repeater has North America as group 3 in time slot, whatever, 1, right? And it only allows 7 talk groups. And then the owner of this repeater allows 32 talk groups, right? And for him, a conversation about North America should happen in talk group 98, for example, instead of 3. Well, these guys are never going to be able to connect, because the minute you connect to this one and talk group 3, this one will have to know to connect on group 98. And then if this connects to somebody else with idiosyncratic group numbers, they will have to know all that. So what happens in reality is that these guys need to agree on which talk groups are for what. So you actually go into a talk group thinking that you're going to find a conversation about something, and if they're connected, they're connected in the same talk group, right? And the beauty of this is that if they're connected in the same talk group, for example, now North America is 3 on this one, right? What happens is that you talk about North America on this one in group 3. This one activates group 3 on this one, and somebody else really far away can be talking about North America with you. When there are networks of repeaters, which there are many, okay, usually you want to key up and wait a full second, like key and then speak, because that allows this repeater to activate group 3 and then activate group 3 on this one. And then people listening to this repeater can hear you as well, right? So this actually, it's because it really takes some time, right, to do. Now, if this one allows 7 talk groups and this one allows 32 talk groups, well, you'll have to, if you want to listen to everything, you'll have to program all of these combinations of frequency, offset, color, talk group, and time slot for each repeater, okay? Now, many radios allow you to, or it's a good practice to have each repeater each combination of frequency, offset, color, talk group, and time slot for a repeater, the ones that you're going to use the most, and then one that's called ad hoc that you can change on the radio. For example, I have one for every repeater where it's the frequency, offset, and color, and then whenever I want to do something, I just change the time slot and I just change the talk group right there, right now, right? And those are for, I program, I don't know, four combinations for one repeater with 4 talk groups that I usually talk to, and then the 5th combination just has any talk group, and I just name it ad hoc, so I know I can change that talk group on the fly. Now, how do I know? There's 7 talk groups here. Now they are in agreement, right? Do I have, like, now this one has 32 talk groups, and then the other one might have 294 talk groups, right? How do I know which talk groups are what for me, right? Well, what happens is that many repeaters, okay, because they're digital, they can also connect to the internet. And whenever I key this repeater, so this is a guy that, now has things a little bit more clear, but still not quite there. So every time I key this repeater, okay, this repeater now it's connected to the internet. And it'll go to the internet to a central server, and it will say, oh, this person is keying up group 3. Goes to a server, and everyone connected to that server, every repeater connected to that server, will hear this person on group 3. Every single repeater. And it will broadcast it to all other repeaters that have group 3 enabled, okay, that are listening to group 3. Now, these servers, of course, you can make one, right? But there are a few that are very, very popular and most people use them. BM Brandmeister is, I would say, the most popular. And many repeaters have something that, for example, they allow certain talk groups on certain time slot, and then time slot 2, for example, some will say any group on time slot 2, and you can program any talk group you want on time slot 2. Now, because this is an internet, now the themes make a lot of sense. If you go to the group worldwide here, you will get people from all over the world, and you can talk to New Zealand, Djibouti, Chile, United States, whatever country is connected via their repeater and then to the internet into that talk group. Now, for example, here are some talk groups on the Brandmeister network, right? So global is 91, that's worldwide. Europe is 92, North America is 93, and so on and so forth. And there's several pages of this, right? And that's how I will go and program my talk groups, right? If I know that my repeater is in the Brandmeister network, I can go to the Brandmeister website and look at what are the groups that I can be interested in. If we go to our DMR repeater that we saw earlier, the network here is the Tri-State DMR. If I click here, I'll go to the website and I will see which talk groups are available. Now, if you have two repeaters that are on different networks, for example, this is in the Brandmeister and this is in TGIF network, which is a rather newish network, right? Well, how are they going to talk? How am I going to talk to these people? Well, what happens is that Brandmeister and TGIF and Tri-State DMR and all those, some of the groups are connected in the internet to each other under the same number. They're not all the same number. Sometimes group 3 in Brandmeister might be one thing that's very different in TGIF, but there are some groups that are the same. You have to go to the websites of these groups and see which one's which. But by and large, if you connect to, you go to the repeater book and you'll know which network they're in, and you can figure out which talk groups are available on that repeater. Now, just like with regular radio, if no one is talking in this repeater, you won't be able to hear anything. However, on the internet, there might be talk on talk group 3, for example, right? Let's say somebody's talking on talk group 3. That conversation is on the internet. It's just not broadcasted to this repeater automatically. So what happens is when you key in with talk group 3 on whatever time slot, right? When you key in talk group 3 on the time slot that the repeater owner allows talk group 3 in, what happens is this repeater goes to the internet and opens up and starts listening on that talk group. And now you're going to get all the talk from talk group 3 in the internet. And once you finish talking on talk group 3 on the internet, after a short while, this repeater will go quiet again. Okay, and then somebody can take in the same time slot can start talking on talk group 9, for example, at which point this repeater will connect to the server, will open up its ears for talk group 9, and you will hear all the talk in talk group 9 through this repeater until you finish talking, wait a while, and then the repeater goes silent again and allows whoever wants to talk on that different talk group to come in. So, if you're listening to a DMR repeater in your area and you don't hear anything, see that A, you're listening in the right in the talk group that you're interested in, and see if you're in the right time slot with the right color, with the right frequency and offset. If all of those are true, then you know what? There's nobody talking on that repeater. If you want to hear something, key in and say your call sign and say listening, and that will force the repeater to go to the internet, open the talk group. The whole talk group will know that you're listening, unless somebody was talking already, but the whole talk group will know that you're listening and people will start to show up, okay? But if you don't listen to anything, there's no problem with your radio. It's just that the repeater is not open to the internet, okay, on that talk group. Now, some repeaters can be configured to be open all the time. Now, what if the repeater in your area, this is my problem, has a network that you're not that you might not be all that interested in, or that has really very little activity, and you want to talk on the Brandmeister worldwide group, for example? Well, one way to do this is with hotspots. This is a repeater in your house. It's a little repeater that connects to the internet, and it is a legit repeater that connects to the internet that you can have in your house for about $100. Okay? You select the network, Brandmeister or TGIF or whatever, you select the network and server to connect to. So each network has several servers. So Brandmeister, for example, has servers in the United States and in many countries in Europe and in South America. So you select the one that's closest to you. But you select the network and the server to connect. You select the frequency and offset. So I selected in my house, for example, to operate at 448.85 megahertz. I arbitrarily picked that frequency, okay? Because it doesn't match any of the repeaters around my area. I selected the color. I selected color 13 for my little hotspot. You select which talk groups are allowed. I select any talk group on the Brandmeister network is allowed. And I selected any talk group on time slot 2. Okay? And then I always talk on time slot 2 because it's my repeater. I don't need 2 time slots. I don't have anyone else trying to access this repeater, right? So this is where you rule. And then what happens is, if I want to talk in a talk group, I have a program my hotspot as, just like I would program a repeater, I have programmed my hotspot with 3 or 4 groups that I always try to listen to, right? One of them is worldwide, Brandmeister worldwide, which is talk group 91. And I will key that in, say my name, say listening, and some people will come back. Or some people, I key in my name, nobody comes back. And then because I also set a timeout for it to listen, right? After I'm silent, sometimes people start coming back and there's conversations that I hear, and then I can get in those conversations. I hope this clarifies a lot of the DMR confusions from a user point of view. All you need to know is, if you want to work with a repeater, be it a hotspot or a regular repeater, you need to configure your frequency, your offset, your color, your talk groups, and which time slot. And you can get all of this from Repeater Book, or you can create that in a hotspot.